Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into how Vladimir Putin's war machine is facing one of its greatest challenges yet. The once feared military juggernaut that powered Russia's invasion of Ukraine is now struggling to maintain momentum after the collapse and disruption of the so-called land bridge that connects Russia to occupied Crimea. What began as one of Russia's key strategic victories has turned into a growing vulnerability, and it's reshaping the entire course of the conflict. From the very start of the invasion in 2022, one of Moscow's main objectives was to secure a physical land connection from Russian territory through the Donbas region to Crimea. This land bridge was meant to ensure that Crimea, annexed in 2014, would no longer be isolated. It gave Russia a vital supply route by road and rail, allowing it to move fuel, ammunition, equipment, and troops directly to the peninsula without relying solely on the Kerch Bridge or vulnerable sea routes across the Black Sea. For months, this corridor represented one of Russia's biggest successes. It looked like a permanent gain, a piece of land that could anchor Russia's hold on southern Ukraine. But fast forward to now, and the situation looks dramatically different. Ukraine's campaign of precision strikes, drone attacks, and sabotage has made that corridor more of a liability than an advantage. The land bridge, once touted as an unbreakable link, has turned into a dangerous bottleneck. Supply lines are under constant threat. Railways have been damaged. Fuel depots have gone up in flames. Ukrainian long-range weapons, often Western, supplied, have extended the reach of Kyiv's military deep into Russian-held territory, hitting depots, logistics centers, and bridges that once kept the Russian army supplied. One of the biggest blows has been to the Kerch Bridge itself, the massive structure connecting Russia to Crimea. It's been hit several times by Ukrainian strikes, and even when not completely destroyed, its reliability has been shattered. Reports indicate that Russia is barely using it for military transport anymore. Convoys that once flowed freely are now rerouted hundreds of kilometers through makeshift paths that are easier to detect and disrupt. When an army loses secure logistics, it loses power. Russia's forces are now forced to depend more heavily on rail networks through occupied Melitopol, Mariupol, and Tokmak. But those routes are also vulnerable. Ukraine has used precision strikes to hit trains, rails, and warehouses. Satellite imagery has shown dozens of burned out freight cars and destroyed fuel tanks along the corridor. Each hit doesn't just destroy equipment, it slows the entire Russian war effort. Every delay in supplies means less ammunition at the front, fewer reinforcements, and weaker defensive lines. On the surface, Russian officials continue to project confidence. They claim the corridor remains intact and that supply lines are functioning. But on the ground, the story is very different. Soldiers complain about fuel shortages, delayed rations, and a lack of spare parts. Armored vehicles sit idle for days, waiting for repairs that never come. The logistical nightmare is growing by the week. For Ukraine, this shift is part of a larger strategy. Kyiv knows it cannot match Russia tank for tank or shell for shell, but it can target the lifelines that make the Russian machine run. By crippling the logistics behind the front, Ukraine is forcing Moscow to spend enormous resources just to maintain the status quo. Each destroyed bridge or depot means more time and money wasted on repairs, and fewer resources available for offensive operations. Western intelligence reports have noted that Russia's overall ability to move supplies through southern Ukraine has been reduced by nearly half compared to early 2023. Truck convoys are smaller, less frequent, and forced to move only at night. rail traffic has slowed significantly. The once steady flow of fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements has turned into a trickle. For a modern army, that's catastrophic. When the land bridge weakens, the entire southern front weakens. Crimea, once the crown jewel of Russia's conquest, becomes increasingly isolated. Every missile strike on a depot or a railway brings the peninsula closer to being cut off. Russia's ability to defend it diminishes day by day. Without steady supplies, the troops stationed there will eventually face shortages, and their ability to launch operations toward Odessa or Mykolaiv becomes almost impossible. The broader picture shows that Russia's military posture has shifted from offense to defense. After initial gains, the Kremlin's focus has moved toward holding ground rather than expanding it. That shift reveals a deep vulnerability. An army that's constantly defending, constantly repairing, constantly reacting to attacks on its logistics is an army under pressure. It's the opposite of the confident, fast, moving force Russia tried to portray in 2022. Inside Russia, this new reality is causing friction. The industrial base is stretched thin. Factories are running around the clock to replace lost equipment, but sanctions have made it hard to get components and materials. Russia's reliance on outdated Soviet-era weapons is increasing. Tank production can't keep up with losses. Artillery barrels wear out faster than they can be replaced, and the manpower problem continues to grow. Recruitment drives pull in fewer volunteers while casualties remain high. When these factors combine, industrial strain, manpower shortages, and crumbling logistics, you get what many analysts now call a crippled war machine. It's not that Russia can't fight at all, but its ability to wage war effectively is steadily eroding. The land bridge, once a symbol of control, has become the perfect example of that erosion. Ukraine's strikes on bridges, ports, and supply depots aren't just tactical moves. They're strategic chess plays. Each hit forces Russia to divert resources. Engineers are pulled from other areas to rebuild roads. Troops that could be fighting at the front are reassigned to guard railways. Air defenses that could protect cities are deployed to shield convoys. The entire system becomes overstretched. Morale also plays a role. Russian soldiers stationed along the land bridge corridors are increasingly demoralized. Many live under constant drone surveillance, never knowing when a strike might come. They dig trenches near damaged roads and spend nights repairing rail lines under fire. For them, this isn't the triumph Moscow promised its survival under siege. For Ukrainian forces, the psychological advantage is significant. Each successful strike sends a message. Russia's grip is not unbreakable. Crimea can be isolated. The land bridge can be cut. That sense of momentum fuels morale, not just among soldiers, but across Ukrainian society. It reminds everyone that even after years of war, Moscow's military might can still be challenged and weakened. Meanwhile, Russia's attempts to adapt are growing desperate. They've started building alternate roads along coastal areas, using civilian trucks for military transport to disguise movements. They deployed decoys, fake bridges, and dummy convoys to confuse Ukrainian surveillance. But these improvisations only highlight how vulnerable the real infrastructure has become. Economically, the costs are staggering. Billions of rubles are being poured into repairing damaged railways and highways. Insurance costs for logistics operations have skyrocketed. Every destroyed shipment is a direct financial loss, and with sanctions already choking the Russian economy, the strain is immense. The Kremlin may not admit it, but keeping this war machine running is becoming unsustainable. Internationally, the consequences are clear. Russia's inability to secure its own logistics undermines its image as a military superpower. Allies like China and Iran may continue to provide limited support, but they also see the weaknesses. A crippled supply network means a weaker partner, less capable of sustaining a long conflict. For Ukraine and its supporters, this moment represents a turning point. The focus is no longer just about retaking cities, but about breaking the systems that keep Russia in the fight. Destroying the land bridge isn't only a military goal. It's a strategic one that could reshape the entire balance of power. If Ukraine manages to completely sever the corridor, Russia's forces in Crimea and southern Ukraine could face an unprecedented crisis. Supplies would have to come by sea, where Ukraine's naval drones and missiles are already inflicting heavy losses. Air resupply would be limited and dangerous. The isolation of Crimea would force Moscow to choose between overcommitting resources to defend it or accepting that its position there is no longer tenable. Even partial disruption creates cascading effects. Every delay in food, fuel, or ammunition affects frontline units. Every destroyed bridge lengthens routes by hours or days. Over time, these small delays add up, reducing combat readiness, slowing operations, and increasing fatigue. The war machine begins to sputter, not because of one decisive blow, but because of 1,000 smaller cuts. The symbolism of a crippled Russian war machine matters almost as much as the physical reality. For years, Russia projected an image of unstoppable strength, but now the world sees an army plagued by shortages, inefficiency, and logistical collapse. Putin's narrative of a confident, powerful state capable of endless war is collapsing under its own weight. In Moscow, propaganda continues to paint a picture of control, but the cracks are visible. Reports of corruption in supply chains, missing equipment, and black market fuel sales reveal a military apparatus struggling to function. Soldiers complain of outdated rations and missing medical supplies. These are not signs of a victorious army. They're signs of a military in decay. The weakening of the land bridge has also exposed deep flaws in Russia's military planning. The Kremlin underestimated Ukraine's ability to adapt and innovate. They didn't anticipate how Western technology would allow Kiev to strike targets hundreds of kilometers away. They overestimated the resilience of their own infrastructure, built on corruption and poor maintenance. And now, those miscalculations are catching up. Looking ahead, it's clear that this struggle over logistics will define the next phase of the war. Ukraine will keep targeting supply routes, and Russia will keep trying to patch them up. But the longer this continues, the more strain Russia faces. Its war machine, already stretched, risks grinding to a halt. Even if Russia manages to temporarily repair the land bridge, it will never again be fully secure. Every truck, every train, every depot will remain under threat. That constant danger limits flexibility, slows planning, and drains morale. The myth of invincibility that Putin built around his army is fading. The collapse of the land bridge doesn't mean the war ends tomorrow, but it means the balance of power is shifting. The side that controls logistics controls the future. Ukraine has learned that lesson well. By hitting the arteries of Russia's war effort, Kiev is turning one of Moscow's biggest strengths into its biggest weakness. In the long run, this could mark the beginning of a strategic decline for Russia's military. The war machine may still move, but it's no longer running smoothly. It's grinding, stalling, and breaking down under pressure. What was once a symbol of power has become a cautionary tale of overreach and decay. For Putin, the consequences go beyond the battlefield. A crippled war machine weakens his image at home. raises doubts among allies, and limits his leverage abroad. It turns a war that was meant to demonstrate Russia's strength into one that exposes its fragility. In every sense, the breaking of the land bridge represents more than a tactical loss. It's a metaphor for the unraveling of the entire Russian war effort. The corridors that once connected Russia's ambitions now expose its vulnerabilities. The very infrastructure that symbolized conquest has become the Achilles heel of an empire at war. And as Ukraine continues to strike deeper, as supplies dwindle, and as morale falters, it becomes clearer that Putin's war machine is no longer what it once was. It's still dangerous, still capable of destruction, but it's wounded, and those wounds are spreading. The longer the war drags on, the more those wounds bleed the system dry. So when we talk about Putin's war machine being crippled after the fall of the land bridge, we're not just talking about broken roads and bridges. We're talking about a broken system, a shattered illusion, and a military that's slowly collapsing under the weight of its own ambitions. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Russia can recover from this logistical disaster, or has the turning point already come? I'll see you all in the next one.